time itself is neutral. It can be used either destructively or constructively. More and more I feel that the people of ill will have used time much more effectively than have the people of goodwill. Human progress never rolls in on inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts of men willing to be co-workers with God. Without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. Martin Luther King, Jr. My mother often told us that we should read the Emancipation Proclamation, and even gave me a copy of the U.S. Constitution when I was a college student. She said that we celebrated January the 1st not just because of the new year, but because it represents the day the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. January the 1st, 1863 was our new year. When I was younger, I could remember having conflict in my head as to the things that I was hearing in my circles. It was just a war document, they would say. If Lincoln could have kept slavery and ended the war, he would have. I heard that Lincoln wasn't radical at all, and neither was the Emancipation document. So why were we making such a big deal about it? I since read it and grew older and learned that in many places around the country, meetings were held, watch parties, if you will, to see if this Emancipation document would in fact be signed. I learned that Fred Douglass, that day with dozens of other escaped slaves, waited intently on the outcome of that day, knowing that this day would be the beginning of a new day for almost 4 million slaves. And so while the Emancipation Proclamation was not so radical to young activists in 1980s and 90s, it was incredibly radical to slaves that were haunted by the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, and a country that built its wealth off the enslavement of Africans. In retrospect, I realized that we spent too much time trying to get people to dislike Lincoln than we did to get them to abhor slavery. This past February, I had a chance to attend the National My Brother's Keeper Summit in Oakland, California. Hundreds of young men of color gathered from around the country to discuss ideas and remedies to long-standing systems that work to impede, diminish, even destroy the growth, the development of young men of color. My Brother's Keeper is an initiative started by then President Obama after the murder of Trayvon Martin. I raise this because outside of the event, there was a big protest. Well, a small protest. A group of about a half a dozen people yelled from a bullhorn and did their best to disrupt or pull attention away from the summit. Most of the things they were saying, I agreed with. Inequity inherent in the system. The need to do more than this convening. And even some of the things I wished Obama would have done more about. But I couldn't help to think, how is their protest helping to deal with those very issues? How does making Obama your target when he's not even the president at this event help you to organize or win people to your point of view? And most importantly, how is disrupting an event that's bringing young men of color together from all over the country to talk about addressing mass incarceration, criminal justice reform, access to education, local policy changes, and purposefully includes Native Americans at the table? How did that become the enemy of our progress? I say that because we are not always clear, and those that believe they are the clearest are sometimes the most confused. Clouded by opportunism and the frustration of their inability to move people, but even more so, the confusion of their very own ideas. Power is the ability to exert force on an object or a mass, either animate or inanimate. When I was in college, we used to say force equals mass times acceleration. We would make it move. It's the ability to activate your ideas, then put them in motion. I was an activist in 1989 when I led students to take over the administration building at Howard University to remove Lee Atwater from the Board of Trustees. I was an activist when I organized marches to City Hall against police brutality and called for a civilian review board. I was an activist when I was arrested at the council meeting for singing so people could have the right to speak. I was an activist when we held feeding and clothing drives and taught our students history in Saturday academies. I was even an activist when I held teach-ins at churches and spoke at schools with rappers of that day. I was an activist when I organized rallies with the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition to speak out against the epidemic of homicides in our community. I was an activist when I traveled to LA at the request of then Mayor Sharp James and came back and began organizing peace with street gangs. The difference is now I am the mayor of one of the oldest and most important cities in this country. The economic lifeline of this state, one of the most important transportation hubs and tech hubs in this region, an educational powerhouse, a cultural hotbed with a deep history of people from many parts of the world that chose to settle here. I am the mayor of this city, the city of my birth, by the grace of God, and over 70% of the people that voted in the last election. I cannot afford to be just an activist. I have to have a mind to build. And I have to do all that I can to get all of you to agree with me to be builders as well. So tonight we want to show you what in fact we have been building and tell you why we are in fact building it. So, Madam President, Municipal Council, Reverend clergy, distinguished guests, City of Newark, this is the 5th time I get to present to you the accomplishments of this great city under our watch. And it is with great pleasure and excitement to share with you today, March 12th, 2019, that Newark is still moving forward. Forward is just a direction. Doesn't mean or even connote that we have arrived. Doesn't mean that we are perfect. However, it's a clear sign that we are exerting our power or force on our ideas and moving them forward. This is our opportunity, now more than ever before, to craft what we want to see and build it. Not just talk about it, build it. Develop an offensive strategy. Not sit on the sidelines and critique, but actually get in the game. Sometimes we are more enamored with the idea that we have discovered the problem than we are insistent on working collectively for a solution. Building is hard, and building together is even harder. But the outcomes, trust me, will take us farther. We want to get you involved, be a part of a growing community of builders, of folks who hold their destiny in their own hands, that have not handed over their future to cynicism and hopelessness. Building takes a specific mindset, a stubborn determinism, a get-back-up mentality. The idea informs the work, but then the work informs the ideas. It's a privileged position to wait for the perfect at the expense of the good. Just that it was privileged position to say the Emancipation Proclamation was not radical enough if you want a runaway slave in 1863. When Amazon first announced their intention to build their new headquarters here, we jumped right in. We were one in a list of over 200 cities across the country in a pool of some of the largest, most wealthy cities in this nation. I watched how people counted us out, even some of us here mired in our own self-hatred and self-defeat, even rooting for our loss as a way to validate their backward narratives about our city. I read media stories and watched interviews of people saying that this was such a terrible idea. Even withstood trolls on social media, some of them in the audience. They were more concerned with what Amazon was going to do to us and had no clue that it was really about what we could do to Amazon. No one imagined we would make it to the last 20, then the last 10, then the last final cities that Amazon considered. This city, across the Hudson, Newark, New Jersey. When they came here with their team, they witnessed something most of us miss every day that we take for granted. Extraordinary collaboration, a clear vision, instruments already in place for change and growth, an incredible art scene, a growing college community, transportation infrastructure, and we're using our diversity as strength. Beautiful people with a will to win. When they left here, we knew we had already won. The minute they showed up here, we won. The minute every paper began to print why Newark wasn't ready, we won. And so when they asked me how I felt when they chose New York or Virginia, I said and still say today, we made it to the game and we still playing. And to those that see a small window of an opportunity for us to revisit these talks, who are still trolling me on social media, I don't have the privilege you have. I don't have the luxury that you have. I actually have to build something. You say, why are we courting Amazon? I say, we are not courting Amazon. We are courting the world through the vehicle of Amazon. We are courting even a small measure of those 50,000 direct jobs or the 70 to 110,000 indirect jobs. It's a privileged position to say we reject jobs because we refuse to even have talks with Amazon. When our people are unemployed, we have no right to walk away from a deal like that. We were courting investment in employee-owned businesses, in infrastructure and direct services to our community, from homelessness to scholarships for our children. We say this is not about how powerful Amazon was, but how creative and clear we were in our objectives. This is not the Newark it was when I went to college in 1986. Things are moving and moving fast. Anyone that tries to tell you something different is trying to distract you. Newark is a growing place. The market is changing. People are interested in this city again. In reality, all kinds of things are happening here, around here, every single day. Sit back, watch, and take a look.
Unlike most cities, Newark is exercising the foresight to make sure that economic growth does not also come with gentrification and the displacement of its more housing vulnerable residents. Newark is trying to see the boom in economic growth as a real opportunity to bring resources to its most vulnerable residents. And that represents a sea change in policy making at the city level. Most cities attract economic growth and then turn around years later and worry about the gentrification that it has increased. What Newark is trying to do is to use foresight through instruments like the Equitable Growth Advisory Commission. There's really a broad number of things that the commission can look at, but the important thing to remember is that it is a group of stakeholders from the community with collective expertise who can focus on the kinds of things that sometimes city officials can't focus on and ask, are we doing the best job we can?
2018 was a monumental year for the city of Newark, specifically the Office of Rent Control. We became one of 3 cities in the United States of America to have access to free legal representation. We assisted over 2,000 walk-in constituents, assisted over 7,000 telephone and email inquiries, resolved 120 cases, worked on partnerships between our state, federal, and local agencies, such as Newark Housing Authority, to ensure that properties are registered prior to receiving new tenants or increases. Access to free legal representation was specifically crafted to protect our most vulnerable residents. For a long period of time, the courtrooms were one-sided. 90% of landlords had attorneys or legal representation, 90% of tenants did not. What we're trying to ensure is that people aren't evicted from their homes fraudulently, illegally, or frivolously. We want to ensure that if it is an eviction, it's just. As you know, we're experiencing a huge boom in development, and we want to ensure that tenants have affordable rent. The city is over 78% renters. You know, for me, I'm a renter. I live in the city, and I want to make sure that I can stay here.
The Office of Affordability and Sustainable Housing, which I manage, was created in 2018 after the passage of the IZO, the Inclusionary Zoning Ordinance, which requires all developers that have a development over 30 units to have a 20% affordable set aside. So we're here to ensure that the developers comply with that. We've also created a minority co-developer list and vetted the co-developers, because anyone who has a tax abatement, they have to have a minority co-developer on their project. And the difference between a minority co-developer and just minority subcontractors is that co-developers would have equity stake in the deal, and they will be able to benefit from the deal in perpetuity for the life of the deal. Also, we have a customer service wing. So we have staff in the office that help people access affordable options throughout the city. And one of the main ways that we do this is through the website that we've created.
So recently, there's a pool of minority developers that the city's working with, and they're providing us with technical assistance to be able to purchase properties, and as well as helping us navigate through the building department, different departments through the city. So we've had workshops on bonding readiness, financial preparation, how to be able to apply for loans from the banks. I'm having opportunities that others in my position don't have.
I'm the developer of the first multifamily container home house in the state of New Jersey history. I'm a Newark Public Schools product. Then I went on to Rutgers University and studied civil engineering. And I took it within myself to make a change in my community. It was a parcel of land that was adjacent to where we grew up. I actually grew up on that porch with my cousins. It was my cousin's old house, but it was knocked down. And I saw the parcel, I researched it, and guess who owned it? City of Newark. I reached out to Director of Housing, and I said, listen, I would love to have this parcel. And I actually spoke with the mayor about it. He was like, I want to, take a step up from the 2 and 3 family houses, and I want to, build my first development, multi-rise, like 4 or 5 story development, literally across the street from where I grew up at. And the mayor supported it. He said, listen, anything I could do to help you, just let me know. I was able to become a part of an initiative in the West Ward of Newark, where they want minority developers to acquire land and to develop these parcels in conjunction with the city as they hold our hands. We have meetings every other Friday so that we can, develop these parcels and we could be successful. Words can't describe how, I can go back to my community and make a direct impact.
For the past 4 years or more, we have been working to change the old narratives of Newark, attract more people, create economic ecosystem that attracts investments, stabilizes our housing market, leverage and seed our arts community, support small business growth, encourage buying local, and prepare residents for what we knew would come if we had the mind to work. Our lift was a heavy one, and now that we have ignited this growth, we have a whole other set of issues. How do we capture the wealth that is coming into our community? How do we steer investments to communities that have suffered disinvestment deliberately for 50 years or more? How do we prevent the displacement that has come with rapid growth in most other cities? We must create investment ourselves and be imaginative in our approach. So yes, we have an inclusionary zoning ordinance. We created an equitable growth commission and an office to manage affordability. We made sure that local brown and black residents are included in the economic growth to address the wealth gap that stains this state. We strengthened rent control and began forcing landlords and developers to register their properties. We established a right to counsel ordinance to protect our residents from illegal evictions and frivolous attacks by unscrupulous landlords. But at the same time, we encourage home ownership and train our local developers to get and develop property of their own. We encourage them to build and use monies from inclusionary zoning, if necessary, to fill some of the gaps in local projects. We create home foreclosure assistance programs and help renters become owners by getting local developers to develop at lower costs and selling properties at lower rates. After the state legislature passes the land bank ordinance, we create a local land bank to manage and dispose of abandoned and vacant properties We develop neighborhood strategies like Bergen Street Redevelopment Plan to bring life and economy back to a once booming area of the South Ward that has been neglected for many, many years. Or the Doremus Avenue Redevelopment Plan to encourage capital development with the Port Authority in mind to create jobs in advanced manufacturing and duty-free zones with better conditions, higher wages, and cleaner vehicles. We don't want to just focus on big companies to attract growth and jobs. We are encouraging employee ownership and residential and worker-owned cooperatives. The council just passed an ordinance that's the first of its kind. It encourages employee ownership for Newark-based businesses. Company owners that are looking to sell or retire from their businesses will have an option of applying to the city for a loan or a loan guarantee when transferring ownership to employees. We have begun to engage businesses about this idea where workers can collectively buy the business with no personal investment of their own, but receive ownership as a part of an employee benefit package. Businesses of this kind around the country currently employ 13 million workers. That's just one step to tackle the income inequality in this city. We've also worked to create Freedom Paper, an African-American-owned paper company, as part of a community wealth building strategy. We are helping to build a co-op paper company with re-entry employees. This co-op will be both owned by Black and brown people, but will also be employee-owned at the same time. And we are looking to do a ribbon cutting very, very soon. And as you saw through our contractor development initiative, we are servicing and preparing an array of folks ready to take on the challenges of developing and building in this city where they live, ready to tackle countless abandoned properties and vacant buildings in our city, and not be defined by what's going to happen to our city, but creating those definitions themselves. They will be armed to predict the future of our city by creating it themselves. Lastly, the city is currently exploring a pilot for universal basic income. We have already received national recognition and technical assistance from the Economic Security Project and the Jane Institute to launch an exploratory task force to assess the feasibility of a UBI program in the city of Newark. We believe in universal basic income. We believe in universal basic income. Martin Luther King believed in universal basic income, especially in a time where studies have shown that families that have a crisis of just $400 in a month may experience a setback that may be difficult, even impossible for them to recover from, where a third of our city still lives in poverty. We have to have a mind to build, a mind to work, and all we're asking for you to do is to help us work and build this city. Yes, Newark is growing. Yes, people are coming here. Yes, it can be a scary notion as we watch what has happened to cities experiencing rapid growth around the country. But the status quo is equally scary, one we have lived with for decades. We do not have the privilege to do nothing to rail against development in our city, while those that can go, shop, play, vacation, and enjoy in other cities while opposing those very things in the city of Newark. We have to be as Frederick Douglass was in 1863, cautious, thoughtful, but clear. Clear that this is a beginning, not the end. That we're at the basement and the first floor, not the roof. That this is a step in a larger plan. That we cannot be against the good for the perfect. That the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 was right. And so now, in this present day, we have to begin to build. Build, not just complain, not just talk about it, but build. I want you to sit back and watch how the people in Newark are actually building.
The unemployment rate in Newark, New Jersey has gotten down to an all-time low of 5.4%. That is historic. It has never been that low since I've been alive for decades. The Summer Youth Employment Program has grown by leaps and bounds. When Mayor Baraka was elected, the city of Newark employed maybe about 1,000, a little over 1,000 youth throughout the city. Now we are up to 3,000 youth that are employed, ages 14 to 24. We've also been able to increase the type of training for in-demand occupations that are happening in the city of Newark. I mean, you can look around us and look at the development that's going on. Through Newark Works and the Newark Workforce Development Board, we were able to hire 650 Newark residents in full-time sustainable employment. We've also been able to service 530 people through the WOW vehicle, the Workforce on Wheels mobile unit. We have residents who are coming home from prison. They have been released from traditional halfway houses or Department of Correction facilities, and they come to the One Stop, and we've been able to employ them with the city's Department of Sanitation. Also during that 6 months, they are working with counselors at Newark Works that help them transition back into the community.
Grew up in Newark, New Jersey is my whole life. I've been there for 56 years. You know, what you pay attention to and agree with becomes a part of you. So I got caught up in the drugs and selling drugs and all that. Through that process right there, I ended up with 58 arrests. So what I did was I put myself in the program. The counselors in the program is what's the blessing. Because they understand that we come in there, some of us is damaged, some of us never had a job before. So I went down there. 2 weeks later, she had me working. After the 6 months, you can get a trade or whatever you want to do. So through the re-entry program, I had got my forklift certification, got my OSHA 10 card, got my OSHA 30 card. It's just been a beautiful journey, man. Just been a beautiful journey. You know, you got a choice in life, which way you're gonna use your power. The power is your choice, and it's up to you which way you use it. Either you're going to abuse it, or you're going to use it wisely.
Newark 2020 is an initiative, really a charge to the corporate and anchor community to hire 2,020 residents by the year 2020. Already through the portal, 45 local residents have been hired through the Newark2020.com platform. We work directly with community hubs, the community development corporations that are based in the neighborhoods doing a lot of the outreach and recruitment. It's really important for us to make sure that we're not just saying kind of come to us, but we're going to the neighborhoods, we're directly recruiting folks, and we're making that connection to the corporate and anchors that are at the table and ready to hire. RWJ Barnabas has increased the number of Newark residents by 16% on their workforce. And PSENG, in partnership with NJIT, the Alliance, and Newark Works, has rolled out a pretty aggressive training program and test prep program that removes the barriers to many of their entry-level positions. And then you have examples like Audible, where they have offered over 100 Newark high school students internships. So we're really thinking about the pipeline.
I come from one of the roughest neighborhoods, so I see the dynamic. And 7 months ago, it was very hard for me to even feed my family. When I went there, I called one day. I was really stressed, crying, and I went and I just wanted therapy or whatever. And I Googled them, I reviewed them, and when I called, she told me to immediately come in. And when I went in, I was able to talk to Sister Mary and Mrs. Dowding, and they immediately went into action. And she was like, I think I know what I can do for you. I think your issue is that you need employment. It really went kind of fast. She told me about a job that was coming up with hotel trades, and I went for the interview. I didn't have the money to get there, and Miss Dowding from the Women's Center, she gave me the money to even get to the interview that day. So, you know, from that point on, I went in making $20. Now I make $24.65, and I also have became the union delegate for the union, and I just keep rising and rising and rising.
We know that one of the immediate ways to address poverty, our economy, is to stabilize families and reduce crime, is to make sure people have access to good-paying jobs. We've been fighting steady and intractable unemployment for years. We're excited to watch the numbers decline as new businesses and development comes to our city, as our one-stop placed 650 Newark residents in full-time jobs, and 262 of those were reentry. When I first became mayor, the unemployment rate was 11.2%. We have the lowest unemployment rate now in 50 years. We've employed and trained over 3,000 youth in the largest summer youth program in the history of this city and this state. We have now begun to get them in year-round opportunities and internships, creating a pipeline of employment-ready young people that will take advantage of our growing city. The engagement of our corporate and anchor institutions in employing Newark residents is at an all-time high. We've gotten Newark 2020 on its way finally, and have created an atmosphere where our anchor institutions want to eradicate the notion that Newark residents are not ready to work in their firms. Are we perfect? No, but we have been building. Prudential, Rutgers, Audible, NJIT, and NJPAC have invested millions on a Live Local incentive to encourage their workers to choose to live in Newark. As we want them not just to share in Newark's prosperity, we want them to help us address some of its challenges. Our local procurement is up as well. That is, we are encouraging our anchors to increase their spend with local businesses. On average, the spend was only 3%. We have gotten that number to about 9% and are still pushing for at least 20% by 2020, which means we have a lot of work to do. Rutgers has increased their spend by 26%. PSE&G last year alone spent $253 million on local businesses, an increase of $25 million. Audible has subsidized over 10,000 employee visits to neighborhood restaurants in 2 years alone. This directly impacted the local economy, and they hired over 100 high school students in paid internships. Look, we need all of the corporations to do the same thing now. As you are here, taking advantage of our college community, our transportation infrastructure, the unprecedented growth that is happening in our city, we want you to spend some of that money and transfer some of that wealth to the community you are in. Increasing your spend with local businesses helps them sustain themselves, helps them to grow, expand, and hire more Newark residents. It helps stabilize communities, improve educational outcomes, and grow our economy. We need all of the institutions, big and small, in our city to be committed to the idea and do something about it today. We don't want no more meetings, no more studies, no more conversations, no more analysis. We need you to get on board today. Do something about it. If you have not hired Newark employees, then you are missing the boat. If you are not spending money with local businesses, then your use in our town is waning. We need you to be a part of Newark. We don't need you to benefit from Newark. We need you to be a part of Newark's growth. Look, if you saw the video as I watched it, you see our city is made up of real people with real capacity and very real obstacles in their way. All they need is an opportunity to excel. And when the rules are clear, when the rules are fair, when we have a chance to shine, we are brilliant. I said once before that we do well in sports, not because we're inherently better, but because the rules are fair for everybody. 10 yards is 10 yards, whether you speak English or Spanish or Creole, whether you pray to Allah or Jesus, whether you're tall or short or fat or skinny or black or brown or gay or straight, the rules are fair. And when the rules are fair, we shine. We are brilliant. We're not just depending on right actions of our anchors. We're also convening financial empowerment summits for our youth, developing youth entrepreneurship programs and many MBA programs for small businesses, seeking to grow their capacity and expand collaborating with Perscalis, Newark 2020, and the Newark Alliance to prepare our residents for the tech economy. We're also collaborating with the New Jersey Department of Labor to prepare, train, and hold positive recruitments for our residents, for growing industries like healthcare, manufacturing, and transportation. We know if we work together collectively, if we use all of our energy and all of our power, we can begin to create the economy we've been looking for, to put all Newark residents to work, to begin to create pipelines to employment, pipelines to career, and pipelines to all of these anchors that live and exist in our city.
With the enormous amount of economic development taking place in our city, it is essential that all of our residents have the degrees and credentials necessary to be able to compete in our local economy. The Newark City Learning Collaborative, also known as NCLC, is a citywide initiative working to move all of Newark toward higher levels of college enrollment and completion. We're working to provide admissions and financial aid resources through neighborhood library branches throughout the city. Our high school graduation rate has climbed from 61% to 78% in just a few short years. But we're also seeing more of our young people enrolling in college. NCLC just released a report that found that 54% of the young people in our study sample enrolled in college. They immediately enrolled in college within the next academic year. So in Newark, we have a lot to be proud of.
One of the most exciting things for us is that we have an education mayor. So we're working with high schools all across Newark in Newark public schools to think about dual enrollment credits, enrolling, for example, at Rutgers Newark in the School of Arts and Sciences in courses at the same time as you're in high school. Our collaboration with Apple in Shabazz is amazing. I mean, doing all kinds of City of Coding work in Shabazz High and across Newark Public Schools. The way in which we're working with Westside High School to think about what a business academy looks like. In the last 5 years, we have increased the representation of residents of Newark students at Rutgers University Newark as students, as undergraduates, by 86%. Very exciting. So one way to think about it is that we've really changed the map of who's at Rutgers Newark to be Newark-centered.
I was born and raised in Newark. I was born in the East Ward in St. James Hospital, and I grew up on 4th Street in North Newark. This is where I want to stay forever. I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to stay here in this city. I want my future kids and their kids and my family to stay in the city, and for them to have a great education, for them to have a job here, for them to go to school here.
The Run to the Top program is a program at Rutgers Newark where Newark residents whose parents make under $60,000 go to school debt-free. I absolutely love this city. It's a city I see me raising a family in, going to school in, starting a business, and continuing for me to grow.
The partnership with the city and the mayor and I goes back well over a decade when he was principal of Central High School. NJIT is increasing its enrollment of Newark-based students through our pre-college programs. These are summer and after-school programs. Through teacher training of Newark math teachers, particularly at the high school. Giving scholarship money to the students who attend NJIT. And finally, when they get to NJIT, to ensure their graduation, we do a comprehensive advising and mentoring of these students, as well as tutoring that is necessary. And when they graduate, they have 3 job offers each.
The Newark Literacy Coalition is a joint venture between the City of Newark and the United Way. Within the Literacy Coalition initiative will be the Mayor's Book Club. In addition to that, there will be an opportunity for young people in our city in an intergenerational effort to train young people in reading techniques, and they will then go into our community and they will help to uplift others in the community who need to learn how to read better.
So Newark Street Academy is the mayor's initiative for dropouts in Newark. It's designed for young adults ages 16 to 24. It keeps them off the street. It gives them the self-directed leadership that they need to re-enter society, and they have community service. And they go into different schools in the community and help paint different parts of the school. They help give out food to the homeless. And they also go on trips outside of the community so that they can understand what it's like to be outside and inside the community. Then after that, they take the academic portion of the program, which is at Leaders for Life, and they take the adult basic education. It gives them the knowledge to go back to high school. or to go to college or to take a vocational training class. I was involved in gangs. I had trouble growing up in high school, so them relating to me for the stuff that they involved in, even if they're on the streets or they're involved in gangs, they can relate to me to see that as they don't have to give up. It's a person just like them that can succeed through the struggles and the stuff that we go through in the community.
I've gotten off the streets as well. It's meant a lot to me. It's helped me grow as a man. It's given me my diploma. It helped me help my little brother get in school as well, because I'm a role model. He's seen me doing good now. He's doing good as well.
Before I was a student at NSA, I was like in the streets, no direction, heading down the wrong line. You know, not only did I get my high school diploma from being with them, but I also gained another family, you know. Sometimes people don't have that support system and they tend to fall to the streets and down the direction that they can't get out of. I'm better opportunities is coming to me. They're still inside my life, no matter like how far I go, you know, they're still right there in the corner with me.
I was born in this city. I attended Newark Public Schools and then went on to Howard University, and after that, St. Peter's in Jersey City. My educational experience helped me to begin to achieve the things that I once only dreamt about in front of Yusef's Steak and Take on Avon and 14th Street, or on the corner of Clinton Avenue and 11th Street. I experienced the same things that most young people in this city experience, but I had opportunities that most were not afforded. Our job here is not to just go and yell at board meetings. Our job is to actually build, to provide the same access to thousands of other kids, and to ensure that you are part of the process that makes sure that all of our children are advancing, all of them. Newark City of Learning Collaborative was created to do just that, to make sure that more of us had post-secondary degrees, advanced degrees, and certifications. We wanted to lift the number of residents that fit that description to 25% from then 19% by the year 2025. And we will reach that goal and go beyond it before that. But in doing that, we want to make sure that our growth is just not a byproduct of new people moving to our city, but because we are building foundations and pipelines, opportunities and settings where our young people here can grow and excel. We have to create a college-going culture. The good news is more of our kids, as you see, are graduating from high school, and more of them are enrolling in college. You saw the incredible work that is being done at Rutgers Newark, targeting our young people. And 2 weeks ago, we announced with NJIT and Dr. Bloom that they will take 3 Mayor Scholars per year and increase their enrollment with our students by at least 200 students per year. This collaboration with Newark Board of Education will create teacher training academies in math and begin to prepare cohorts of our students for this new opportunity. The superintendent is not only committed to the 200 students per year, but has raised that goal to 600 students that he wants to prepare to take advantage of this goal. It is finally a pleasure to work with a superintendent born and raised and living in this city. That is not interested in closing schools, but opening them up. That has a clear passion and determination for success of our children. He just announced a huge training academy, the largest in the state, that would create pipelines for our students to become teachers, to put more of us in front of our babies, giving them an opportunity to see themselves in their own classrooms. 3 years ago, we opened Newark's first ever street academy, targeting young people that have dropped out of school and have no steady employment. We was able to get a grant from the state, from Governor Christie then. We offered them $10 per hour to re-engage in self-education, community service, and social and emotional support. Each year we're getting better and better, and the students are becoming more and more successful. And I have worked to integrate these young people into a growing community that can have a part in the building. We are creating, with the help of the Newark Literacy Coalition and the United Way, a culture of reading with the Mayor's Book Club, early childhood interventions, and reading improvement for low literacy adults. We need to make it clear that none of these strategies, none of them, will be optimal on an island alone. It is imperative that we begin to wrap our entire community around our students, to use every resource at our disposal to get students in seats in these institutions, both traditional and non-traditional, but to also begin to create a universal design that will allow all of our students to have access to a decent education no matter where they are or where they live. We have to destroy the inequity that exists in our institutions locally. We have to deliberately make room for underrepresented cohorts in the places where our children are experiencing the most success. In other words, we have to make room for black and brown boys. They are being left behind systemically and purposefully. We can no longer be satisfied with the 1 or 2 tokens we have in the AP classes, or the 1 or 2 in the pre-college programs, or the 10 that you allow to go to magnet schools, or the 3 that are in honors tracks, and the list can go on and on and on and on. We have to make a conscious and intentional effort to change the dynamic. This is one of the reasons why we created the Children's Cabinet and the Youth Policy Board. We want to buttress our schools with the support they need from local and national experts and institutions that will assist us in changing the trajectory of our students' outcomes. We need to begin to talk about policy solutions, to get rid of long-standing obstacles that are killing our babies. Killing our babies.
My Brother's Keeper is a collective impact initiative of Mayor Baraka focused on closing opportunity gaps for young men of color. Our focus is on mentoring, violence reduction, and living wage jobs. Last year, we hosted the Obama Foundation's Opportunity Summit, where we brought together almost 1,400 young people from all over the city of Newark. Over 40% of those young people were hard-to-reach young folks who are not connected to a school, a GED program, and we had over 1,400 of them there with 50 hiring partners, and over 600 walked away with jobs that day.
So the Mayor's Youth Office is a catalyst, a hub where we actually bridge the gap between the youth and the city government, and we actually use that space as a safe haven for young people to come just to speak about issues that they have in the community. There are quite a few activities that we have. Last summer we did 2 camps. One was the Umoja Leadership Camp. It was 1 week overnight camp where students actually went to Camp McDonald, which is a YMCA camp, and they studied different strategies and things that would make them a better leader in their community. The Mayor's Leadership Academy is every 3rd Saturday of the month, and that's where we actually learn hands-on communication skills from the mayor, how to be better leaders, and some of the things that we might need to know to be more aware of our community and how we can be better as leaders. And the HBCU Travel Camp was where we took 25 summer youth employment students, and they studied for about, every week they would study for 6 weeks, and they studied the different colleges, HBCUs specifically, like Howard University, Coppin State University, Morgan State University, and a few others. And they studied these colleges during the week, and then they would take a trip on Friday to actually see these colleges. We take students to the United Nations. I actually was a speaker on a panel for the Global Peace Ambassadors, and we also are doing a hashtag now. It's called Be Yourself and Love Newark. And with this hashtag, we feel as though students, when they have self-awareness and they see that they need to love themselves, they can look forward to loving the community also. So we ask them to go out, post on social media something positive, because sometimes we use social media as a negative tool, but we use it as a positive tool. And we told them to go out, do something good, post it, and then see who gets the most likes. And by posting these positive deeds, we can see good interaction in our communities outside of the bad things that are so-called happening. I believe this moves the city forward, the youth office, because honestly it gives us a voice and a seat at the table.
We're the next generation, we're the future. One big issue is education. I know we are just really getting local control back, and I'm working with the NSU, the Newark Students Union. What we're working on right now is a student bill of rights for the city of Newark, because sometimes we feel as though some teachers don't show us some respect. Although some students don't show us teacher respect, we want to make a set of rules that students would want to follow and teachers have to follow.
We've been able to go out into the Newark Public Schools, meet with the administrators, let them know who we are as a youth office, what the services that we provide. We provide leadership, we provide support, encouragement for young people to be who they want to be, and talk to us on what those voices are and what the needs are. If they want to learn about college, I would talk about my experience, what I've done and how I've been a first-generation student, and I took the route of college and took the route of getting advanced education. And so just really having that mentorship and providing guidance. If a young person says, hey, I don't have a place to live, based on that relationship, Shakira has the relationship with an entity that she can call and say, hey, I need this for this young person. They're thriving. They want to go to college. They want to go into a vocational program. They want to be an actress or an actor or a police officer, and they're able to have that safe space and say, hey, I want to do this. We have the Explorer program, so if young people say, hey, I'm actually interested in the police academy, or I want to be this, and they're really young, 14 or 15, we have an Explorer program. We have a connection with that agency, and we're able to say, hey, if you don't want to go on, we're going to go with you.
Through the office, I learned how to make resume. I learned how to talk professionally. I learned how to dress professionally. I learned how to do so many things that involve public administration. The youth office is very diversity. We're doing great things, and we all agree, no matter what, we all agree to move forward for the same common goal.
Unfortunately, the first few deaths of our city this year involved young people. One, a young boy beaten by his mother's boyfriend. Another, a young, beautiful girl still in high school, went to pay respects at a vigil and was senselessly and cowardly gunned down. Two young boys, high school age, died in a stolen car and had a gun in their possession. There's an African greeting that starts with, how's the children? And the answer should be, the children are fine. Any community can be measured by how well their children are doing or progressing. This is why when President Obama organized the My Brother's Keeper initiative, this administration jumped all over it. The organization has provided mentorship and positive male role models to our youth, has collaborated with Opportunity Youth Network to begin to decrease suspensions of black and brown boys, worked with the Newark Police Department to create diversionary programs and station house adjustments for more than half of school-based arrests, and to put youth on pathways to high-growth job sectors. And more than anything, I am proud of the work we are doing in our youth and college office. Every day they are bridging the gap between city government and the youth of our city by empowering young people from all sectors of this community, from youth ambassadors, health initiatives, rallies against hatred, college travel camps, leadership development, speaking out at the United Nations, and youth town halls. They work with St. Barnabas around food security, Robert Wood Johnson around chronic absenteeism. They've created a safe space for young people to engage the government, the mayor, and using their own creativity to do it. We need your help with this. We need you to tell every young person to attach themselves to this office. We need parents to stop saying there is nothing for our young people to do and engage the office in youth and college affairs. This is not a sports program. It's not an entertainment program. This is an empowerment program. We change our young people's ideas by beginning to change their conversations. Do your part. Get a young person into one of these conversations, or create an opportunity to be a part of the conversation yourself. We can no longer be satisfied with showing up at the hospital, raising money for children who have died. We cannot be satisfied going to vigils and going to churches, burying our children. We can't be satisfied with just having rallies. We can't be satisfied being at these events, growing off the demise of our children. What we have to actually do is empower them, watch them grow, watch them develop, watch them become as Shakira McKnight is, watch them become as Josiah Paul has, watch them become as those young people you saw on this screen every day. This is not a joke. This is not pretend. This is not the movies. This is not made up. These are real kids in our city growing up with real obstacles that are engaging their problems every single day and are finding solutions to these problems. I ask you to join these kids. The books say a child shall lead them. So follow these children in helping us build our city.
Crime is the lowest in the last 5 decades in the city because of a few reasons. The first is our relationship with the community has gotten a lot better than it was, our community engagement.
Well, 2 individuals we were speaking with and trying to help mediate conflict that had been taking place for a number of years with them. They actually had the same children's mother. And these individuals had shot each other numerous of times, and then one of them had actually lost a limb. And we were able to, sit down through a period of time and bring them to the table and resolve that situation.
The Newark Community Street Team is the mayor's community-based public safety initiative. We operate through the frame that violence is a public health issue, and that one of the reasons why there's been so much violence in neighborhoods like the South and the West Ward, because over the past 50 years, there's literally been a neglect of investment in people and in infrastructure in these communities. We do this work in 3, I would say, specific areas. We have a high-risk intervention team that intervenes in individual and group gang conflicts to mediate them to a peaceful outcome. We have a team of individuals who act as mentors, and we do case management through that model. They provide safe passage at around 9 schools in Newark. We make sure that our kids go to school and come home safely. We employ credible messengers in the neighborhood, so ex-gang members, ex-convicts, ex-drug dealers, folks who have lived the lifestyle and who have changed their lives for the better and want to contribute to making the city a positive place to live.
One of the things I do is Safe Passage. During Safe Passage, we like to make sure that the students get to and from school safely. Once I got to Safe Passage about 7:30 in the morning, there was a car accident that happened just moments prior. We later found out that it was from a stolen vehicle that crashed into the intersection of a home. And during that time, once I arrived, I noticed that the car burst into flames, where I had to exit my vehicle and assist the children who were in the middle of the intersection to help them navigate through the crime scene, where the police officers were able to do their work and we were able to assist them to get to school safely.
Every other week, the Newark Community Street Team runs the South Ward Public Safety Roundtable. The whole street team participates, as well as the Newark Police Division, residents of the neighborhood, and stakeholders throughout the community. And we get together and we talk about public safety problems in the neighborhood, we strategize on solutions, and then the following week, we report back on the progress that we've made. If a neighbor has identified that there's some activity in on their block or on their corner and they want the street team to help them, then we'll often do a community walk or go out and engage with the individuals in that area who are part of the problem.
I'm a trauma specialist, and so I work with the Special Victims Unit at times when they have victims that need additional resources and services. I help at the Shani Baraka Women's Resource Center as a trauma specialist for women that's been victims of domestic violence or sexual assault or any type of trauma that they have been affected by. I go into the homes, I go into the community, meeting them wherever they are, and so I assess the level of need. And so many of them sometimes need just basic food, clothing, shelter kinds of items, and then some of them may need follow-up on their police reports. Some of them may have to go to court if they've been victimized and they need support in court. We have a West Ward Victims Outreach program
that's out of the health department. And so we work with male survivors of violence that's been victims of crime between the ages of 18 and 30. So we know that once men or males are victimized, they don't necessarily have access to resources. And so we connect them to resources.
It all starts from the community engagement. We have a better understanding between the community and the police department. So for 2017 to 2018, we had 1,400 less victims. We had a 4% reduction in homicide. We had a 35% reduction in robberies. We had a 30% reduction in shootings. We had a reduction in auto theft. So when you look at all our crimes, you're talking 1,400 less victims. We added 2 new precincts in the city. First time in over 70 years that we added precincts in the west side of the city and in the north side of the city. And plus the hiring of 500 officers over the last 5 years with a net gain of about 180 gives us the leverage to put these officers in areas that have the propensity for violence. That's the reason why we had a significant drop in crime and a safer city in 2018.
I recently was at University Hospital for a meeting called together to discuss alternative strategies to violence, and more specifically, how to use resources to assist victims of violence and break the cycle of hurt and retaliation. I was very encouraged to hear one of the doctors that was leading this discussion, who helps with the hospital's own violence initiative program. She said that she actually worked on a victim that came into the hospital. And after she took care of his physical trauma, she connected him to the Newark Street Academy. That's amazing. That is because we are trying to build a trauma-informed city. She recommended him to the Newark Street Academy, got him on track to be a productive citizen, and probably saved his life and the life of possibly other people as well. We are working hard to make Newark this trauma-informed city, to organize our institutions, to collaborate with one another, and establish policies and procedures that do not ignore our ongoing trauma. One such example is a program where we are partnering with the DEA, the Newark Police, and our public schools to notify schools when children have been victims or witnessed trauma after school or over the weekend. The other is what I just described at University Hospital in conjunction with the West Ward Violence Reduction Initiative and the Newark Community Street Team. We have so much more work to do in this area, but we are gaining experience every day. And we have unprecedented lows in victims of crime and violence, reductions in shootings, reductions in homicides, robberies. Police recovery of weapons is up 13% since I took office. And we witnessed a 30% reduction in shooting victims versus 2017. When I was on my way to college in 1986, we had almost 40,000 victims of crime in this city. We have reduced that number exponentially. We have done all the right traditional things, adding more precincts, reducing the area that officers have to respond to, giving residents more visibility, better attention, and the ability to get to know their officers. We've stopped the bleeding of losing our officers and then finally reached a point where we have got a net gain. We replaced many of our cameras that were destroyed by Hurricane Sandy with better technology and have given residents access to these cameras, showing a reduction in crime by 4% where these cameras are present. We have at least 8,000 people helping to view their neighborhoods through these cameras. We have incredible partnerships with surrounding cities and border patrols and robust relationships with the state police and the U.S. Attorney. We work as a team with the county prosecutor's office, the FBI, and the DEA. We are concentrating resources in areas where the crimes are happening or likely to happen. We're using data informed by research with the help of Rutgers Newark, the Victoria Foundation, and Prudential. We have promoted more officers in this department than ever before and are focused on diversity and command control. We have given officers more training and have relentlessly focused on the most violent offenders in our city. And we are now beginning to focus more on domestic violence, as domestic violence accounts for many of our aggravated assaults and a good percentage of our homicides. We are ensuring that domestic violence victims have access to safe housing when in need of relocation. We're recycling their cell phones, programming them to dial 911 and giving them to the victims. We're creating school-wide responses for children that witness domestic violence and providing healing centers throughout the city. We're going to make sure that all of our officers are well trained in dealing with domestic violence. And we are going to automatically mobilize our domestic violence response team for all domestic violence calls in this city. Even more important than all of that, the police contact with our community is up 46%. We have more contacts and less complaints. We are getting more positive contacts with the community, which means we are learning how to reduce crime without violating people's constitutional rights. Let me say that again. We are learning how to reduce crime without violating people's constitutional rights. Besides events like Coffee with a Cop, public safety academies for residents, and community commstats, we have more car cameras and body-worn cameras. We instituted the Hope One mobile unit, an outreach vehicle equipped to address drug addiction that results in homelessness or even overdoses. We bring the services right to the problem. In its first month, we have had 302 visitors, 104 mental health placements, 21 rehab referrals, and 30 people trained on Narcan use. In 2013, I was being hammered for working with gang members. Today, we are training and employing them to intervene and interrupt crime. As most of our homicides are a result of personal disputes, they create safe passageways, mediate conflict in the community, and hold roundtables to address community trauma that often results in violence and poor relationships between the police and our residents. They advocate for victims and work with the hospitals to reduce retaliations and provide services. Soon, we will organize something called the Brick City Peace Collective, a convening of all organizations and institutions to work collaboratively under one umbrella to sustain and focus our anti-violence program and services, to become more effective and increase their outreach. We will also begin to bring together all law enforcement agencies, starting with our own, to begin to divert money and spending into alternative strategies and create opportunities to stop violence and interrupt trauma with community-born initiatives. We've already started this work by beginning to embed social workers with our police to address the needs of those who survive violence and increasing our partnership with health agencies. This is a holistic way to address violence and crime in our community. It begins with the premise that we are in a constant state of trauma and that trauma must be addressed. And the first step is to recognize the humanity of the people that you serve and employ strategies that address the systemic violence we undergo every day that eventually leads to physical violence, that police are a part of that strategy and not the end of the strategy itself. All of us, collectively, have to begin to try to reduce crime and violence in our community. Our city began with trauma decades and decades and decades ago. For years, I've been saying violence is a public health issue. Now I have the opportunity to create programs and institutions to begin to address violence just as that, a public health issue.
I'm here to receive and experience the best type of experience as a resident that I can. But now that I am an employee of the city, I get to see both sides. So I get to have dinner with my friends and we can talk about all the things that we perceive aren't working, and then go back to city government and realize, oh, well, we think that we have a process in place, but when it reaches the residents, it's not effective. For us, the goal is to have more data-based, evidence-based decision-making. While all of us are Newarkers at heart, we want to make sure that there are more minority contractors at the table, and we want more Newarkers involved in doing business in the city, and that takes a lot of different initiatives by a number of different agencies. Business administration is working with NCEDC to, one, articulate what the goal is, and they can work it through their mission. We articulate through procurement and purchasing, how do we look at our policies and initiatives that reduce the barriers for small business owners to do business with the city? How do we articulate with finance on how long it takes folks to get paid. And then through that, you get the ultimate result, which is 1/3 of all vendors that do business in the city are Newarkers.
The city's finances have improved since Mayor Baraka took over as mayor 4 years ago. And over the last 4 years, Moody's has increased the bond rating for the city twice. The increased bond rating allows us to borrow money at a cheaper rate. The improvement in the city's financial situation means that the city is able to provide better resources to its residents through public safety. We've been able to hire additional police officers. Through the Department of Public Works, we're able to provide them with more equipment. They've been able to pave more streets on a regular basis. And through recreation, which provides services to senior citizens and to our young people on a more regular basis.
Well, before, we have 38 pieces of equipment. When I got down there, all the pieces of equipment we had was dated 1990, 1982. So with this new equipment that we're having, it's actually changing the morale of the department. When residents come outside their house, they actually see City of Newark pieces of equipment actually providing the services to Newark. 2 garbage trucks, 11 brand new street sweepers, 13 tandem dump trucks, 8 Mason dump trucks, and 4 new F-150 pickup trucks. We're able to cut back on costs because we're actually out there plowing our own streets, and we use less resources from vendors. Where before, we always used vendors to provide services to the city. Now we're actually using these pieces of equipment, and we actually provide these services on our own, and we doing it better because this is our community. Yeah, I enjoy it. I take my job home with me sometimes. So, and I go home and I think about what we go do different the next day. So, I love doing this.
We have a Senior Olympics now that we offer every summer in August, where our seniors get to come out. Updated board and recreational facility where we have an arcade, full-range arcade in the center. We've upgraded the swimming pools in our area at JFK Aquatic Center. We've upgraded the pools in that area, as well as we're about to embrace and complete total renovation of our Ironbound skate rink, where we'll be operating a 24/7 skating rink down at the Ironbound Recreational Facility. 35,000 acres of great land at our Camp Watershed, where we've expanded services there, not only through our summer programs that we run at Camp Watershed, but we've added hiking, horseback riding, trail excursions, and we've also added snow tubing. Our motto is get fit, get well, and get involved.
Mayor Baraka created the Newark People's Assembly so that people in the community will be empowered to make sure that their opinions and their wants and needs are taken into consideration when decisions are being made. Hence our motto, make your voice heard. People that attend have the opportunity to interact and communicate directly with the department heads, the managers, and the directors for whatever the respective topic is that we're offering. Newark People's Assembly hosts meetings every month. We started in September of 2018 with a series, one in every ward, about just introducing the assembly. We then had topics such as the lead service lines and how people could get their free water filters if they were eligible. We've had meetings on MX3 zoning, which was prior to the city council voting on it. That was specific to the East Ward residents. We've spoken about the redevelopment plan for the South Lincoln Park. We will be doing a series on stormwater runoff and flooding. In the near future, before the summer, we'll also have a series related to recreation, sports, and leisure, as well as what all the people want, public safety, how we can make our community safer. These are not fluffy meetings. We follow up directly following the meeting with whatever the topics, or if people have questions or concerns, we make sure that their issues are being resolved.
We are building every day, improving our city services and working hard to remedy problems. We have a city run by great people with huge commitment and loyalty to the mission of moving our city forward. They have been able to increase our procurement for Newark businesses by 20 points, work to make it easier for local businesses to get help from the city, try to streamline issues relating to permitting and inspections. With increased development comes the need for more efficient and durable services. With the help of increased development, a strong finance department, careful budgeting, and greater revenues, we have been able to help keep the city on a steady road to recovery. We have moved from dependency on state aid, tax anticipation notes, and layoffs to a pathway of increasing all salaries to $15 an hour, hiring more police officers, purchasing more equipment, bringing more services in-house, paving more streets, and improving recreation and activities for our seniors. And most importantly, Moody's has twice upgraded our bond rating, indicating that Newark Forward is exactly what it says, Newark Forward. I'm excited about the progress being made by our Department of Public Works and our Department of Recreation and Senior Services. Besides the hard investments in equipment like dump trucks and snow plows and garbage trucks and street sweepers, Public Works has been investing in people, improving their attendance, becoming committed to this city, organizing their processes and beginning to manage complaints a lot better. They're attacking illegal dumping and working to increase the amount of recycling we collect. They're tearing down abandoned structures and working with reentry and homeless people to grant them opportunities to help us improve the quality of life in our city. Our Department of Parks and Recreation and Senior Services has been equally productive. We have increased the amount of senior events and included more intergenerational programming. We are expanding our sports and recreation programs to include gymnastics, bowling, karate, co-ed softball for adults, and flag football. We're making better use of Camp Watershed and renovating many of our parks, including Ironbound Stadium, now known as Eddie Morass Field. A project that Councilman Amador knows has been in the works for about 4 decades. I want to give special thanks to the Department of Water and Sewer Utilities. And I have to do this because when faced with a problem involving corroding lead service lines, they acted with professionalism and dedication. They've already delivered more than 33,000 filters. And tomorrow morning, they will break ground on a $70 million project with the help of Governor Murphy and the state legislatures and the DEP to begin replacing all the lead service lines in the city of Newark. Hey, so do me a favor. When you leave here today and you go outside, tell people we need more than them just walking in circles, telling us to do things we've already done, trying to force the city to spend millions of dollars on high-priced lawyers from Los Angeles to get us to build lead service lines that we're already building. And instead of trying to get the city to spend our money on their lawyers, they should be working with us, the state, the federal government, and finding corporate businesses to begin to give money to help us actually replace the lead service lines in the city of Newark, in the state of New Jersey, and the United States of America. We can't continue to allow people to use our woes, our problems as stepping stones for their own personal interests. We have had intractable problems for 50 years. We have had lead paint in our homes for decades and nobody showed up. We are working in this city to solve a real problem. And so we need real people with real solutions. So I want to applaud the Department of Water and Sewer, who have been going door to door, giving out filters and replacement filters. And by the way, you can go online and see if you can get your replacement filter if you don't know how to get it. Lastly, in 2018, we created the Newark People's Assembly to be a clearinghouse, a convening mechanism for community and block organizations to help them grow and give them direct engagement with city departments, directors, and initiatives, not just as a means to talk to one another or simply to vent, but to create real opportunities for problem solving, to hear ideas and be part of developing creative solutions. We're seeking to nurture a culture of building and a community of builders with the mind to build. We have engaged residents on everything from water issues to development, and we are going to begin talking about critical issues of growth, city budgeting processes, and ideas around what you want to see in your city, not what people are doing to your city. The Newark People's Assembly will be at the heart of our progress and growth. We need you to get involved, but not get involved in a cynical way, but in a very, very real way. And if you come to these meetings to disrupt people, you'll be coming to the wrong meetings, because these meetings are organized not to disrupt people, but to disrupt systems. And more importantly, to begin to replace old systems with new ones. So we need engineers to come to these meetings, people with a mind that's building. Oftentimes, it feels like I've been a mayor for 50 years. I just want to remind you, it's only been 5. Someone wrote to me on social media that I've been the mayor for a long time. I guess that's relative, but I've been a resident 10 times longer than I've been the mayor. And the trajectory of my life and individual progress has been inextricably tied to the growth of this city. And more importantly, its equitable growth. And we are not stopping now. And while the president is fighting to build a wall, Newark was voted as one of the top cities for immigrants to live. And while around the country, many cities are struggling with the effects of gentrification and development, we have a very real opportunity here to begin to tackle these issues, not just in sloganeering and rhetoric, but in a very real way. We have to stop focusing on what may happen and begin to change what will happen. We have an opportunity here to show the country how to reduce crime significantly and improve your relationship with the police at the same time. How to concentrate on violence and repeat offenders while employing alternative strategies. How to create a trauma-informed city. How to encourage big business to come here and at the same time develop homegrown co-ops. We have an opportunity to support small business growth, make government more efficient, and open it up to the people at the same time. We increase outcomes for black and brown boys. We can increase outcomes for black and brown boys and expand our labor force to include people that have been purposefully kept out of it and watch our economy grow. We can increase opportunities for youth, disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline, and replace them with college and multiple pathways that lead to sustained success for our children, and ultimately for our city. We can take former convicts, former gang members, and not throw them away and use them to destroy the very thing that they once thrived off of. We can give our children a voice and the opportunity to lead and watch them change our city. We can encourage developers to invest in our city with opportunity zones and get excited about those prospects. But at the same time, we can encourage our own people to build and buy homes, to create their own businesses, to become entrepreneurs, to train our people to build and watch the city grow because of us, not in spite of us. We can do all of these things, but we have to have the mind to build. We cannot be focused on delineating each other's flaws and attacking each other's efforts as we are about collaborating, building a collective of ideas. Let 100,000 flowers blossom. We could create a multitude of pathways with the same destination in mind. We just have to have the mind to build. We have to have the courage to climb mountains of self-discovery, no matter how rough the terrain, to sing to noisy crowds, to give even when we don't have anything left. We have to be committed to change and growth, even if the idea is not our own or the person that developed it is not our friend. We have to be willing to journey to unfamiliar places and debate people that don't think like us without demeaning them. Our desire for self-repair, need to move forward, and propensity to win has to be a collective focus, big enough to include all of us and loud enough to drown out the doubt and despair fed to us by those that live off our missteps and sense of helplessness. We fall down together, and then we get up together, and we move forward together. The problems we have belong to all of us, not just a few of us. So the solutions must naturally be collective and not individual. Our mind has to be focused on building. And the great thing about building is that two things can't occupy the same place at the same time. So when we build, we are also destroying. Destroying what's holding us back and building what will make us advance. We are here, Newark, making inroads in what appears to be insurmountable situations. We have made considerable progress. We are finding light in the darkest places and using our imagination to see our city in the way it should be, not the way it has been portrayed to us for years. And when they yell at us to stop, try to discourage us or tell us what we do won't work, or explain to us how uninformed we are, or how many times we stumbled, when RLS prints something negative, or they harp on all of the things that are wrong with our city, I will remind them all that the treasure is in the jars of clay, as proof that what we do is not just from us. That we are hard pressed on every side, but we are not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. That death may sometimes be at work in us, but so is life. That our destination rests in our own hands. Our outcomes will be measured by the work we do, and our city will continue to move forward as long as we have the mind to build, as long as we are not afraid, as long as we have the courage to come together, to build our city, despite what lies in front of us, and drown out the noise of hatred, drown out the noise of despair, drown out the people who get paid to watch us fall down. We have to have the mind to build. And as we say in the men's meetings, we have to hold the line. We have become experts at telling each other what we can't do. We have become experts, very proficient at telling us how bad things are. We have become brilliant at talking about how destructive the city is, but we have not done equally as much to begin to build this city collectively. So when somebody is out there telling you what's wrong with the city, you show them these videos you just watched here tonight. You say that they may come against us, that 100 may fall at our right side, but it will not come near us. We have to have the mind to build and build a city that everybody can live in. Build a city that all of us can be proud of. Build a city that our grandmothers can go to the store in. Build a city that our children can graduate from college in. Build a city that people can raise their families in, that our children can be proud of and grow up and not die on dirty sidewalks. Build a city that we all love and know. Newark, New Jersey, this is our city, our time, our community. We have to build it. If nobody else does, we have to build it. And lastly, we don't build the city for position. We don't build this city as an opportunity to advance to another political career. We don't build this city as a reason to fight each other over small positions that they gave us since 1970. We don't build this city simply because we want to put ourselves on a pedestal, because we want to walk around with our heads high. We build the city because we have a mind to, because we love our children, because we love our grandmothers, because we support our families, because we want to see something actually happen here, because we don't have a right to be negative. We don't have a right to be self-hating. We don't have a right to sit down and do nothing. Millions of people died to get us to the point where we are today. Our job, every day we wake up, every breath we take, every time we open our eyes should be about building the city. We're not building a city just so you can fight whether you want to have 10 stories or 12-story buildings. We're building our city because our children need jobs, because our babies are being killed, because people are impoverished, because they don't have opportunity to access to health care and education. We build our city because we have no damn choice to do anything else. So, when I say hold the line, Because somebody asked me what that was. It means that we lock arms. We lock arms from the North Ward to the South Ward. We lock arms from the East Ward to the Central Ward. We lock arms from West Ward to downtown. We lock arms and we hold the line. We lock arms. We lock arms, and if one fall, we all fall. If one stand, we all stand. We lock arms, and as our enemies come towards us, we hold the line. I was born in this city on purpose and was created for this purpose and this time and this day at this moment in 2019. God bless the city of Newark. God bless the great state of New Jersey. Godspeed to all of you. Newark forward, forward ever, backward never.